make people laugh. Just laughter. I've always tried to analyze what is this mechanism in us when we laugh, why it feels so good, what makes us... You know, of course, the fear of failing, that's what stops people. They're afraid of failing, so by not doing anything, they fail.
Do you still remember your first show?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like your first woman. You know, you never forget. If you don't laugh, if you can't have a good time, once in a while at least, what is it all about? What's the point? Did my gig. I felt like I was having a stroke. I could not remember anything. But I played it.
This is Surfer of Life and I am Tommy. My guest today is a stand-up comic, an actor, writer and a musician, Rich Lyons. Welcome to Surfer of Life, Rich.
Thank you, Tommy.
It's great to have you here.
Great to be here.
How was your Eastern holidays?
Nothing special. Actually, a little special. I went to a friend's house in Lauttasaari. I live in Lauttasaari, so. Paul Westlake, he's another comedian.
Yeah.
Seems to be a high concentration of comedians in Lauttasaari, so. And we're good friends. We've known each other forever. And he had his sons over for Easter, and I went there.
All right.
Yeah.
Any traditional things during Eastern time, normally?
He served lamb, if that's what you mean. Traditional dinner, but no. But I'm not a religious person, and I don't come from a Christian background, so.
All right.
I come from a Jewish background, actually, but from a family that hates religion. My father hated religion, and organized religion, you know, just of any kind.
So no Eastern traditions then?
No, not really. Growing up, we actually kind of celebrated Christmas, even though it wasn't our thing, but all my friends were doing Christmas gifts, so we did the same thing. Yeah. It was just the tradition of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, my favorite holiday is actually Thanksgiving, the American Thanksgiving, because it's all inclusive. It's not about religion. It's just about family. It may have started from a dark place with the Pilgrims and the Indians. I don't know what the actual history there is, but I've heard some dark things. But today it's just a warm holiday for family and to get together, and not too commercialized like other holidays are.
Did you bring it here in Finland as well?
I do it, yeah. I never do it at the right time, though.
No.
No, never.
Why is that?
Because it's always on a Thursday in November, and that's a very busy time for stand-up. So, with the peak of YOLO season. So I would always do it the Sunday after everybody's had their holiday in America. I'd be doing it here. But then it's changed from that to whenever I feel like it. So last time I did it in the spring, like 3-4 months out of sync with the rest of the world. But as long as I get my meal, I love that meal.
Yeah. Is it turkey then?
Turkey, yams and cranberry sauce and everything. Just their pumpkin pie and the whole deal.
Is it difficult to get the whole turkey here in Finland? Because it's not common. I don't see it often in the stores.
I've never had a problem. I mean, I might have occasionally had to run around to 1 or 2 different places, but Stockman usually has it frozen in the back, so no biggie.
All set?
Yeah. Yeah, I try. That's really the only tradition I try to keep up here.
All right.
That I can think of offhand, but yeah.
Talking about stand-up, I believe you started officially in 1997. Am I
Somewhere
correct?
around there, yeah, it could be, because I moved to Finland, I think it was 96. It was within a year or 2 that I was doing stand-up here.
Was the first show here in Finland?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, well, as we know, you are American. Your background is from New York, and stand-up has a long history in U.S., but here in Finland, I don't believe...
No, it was a weird...
It was very common when you did your... Do you still remember your first show?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like your first woman. You never forget. As bad as it was, you never forget it.
Tell me about it.
I was in Tampere, Tuliki. I can never remember the name. Tulikimara. something theater there. It's near the train station there. It's like right behind. It's a very well-known venue. Anyway, yeah, the way I got started here is very strange. I wrote a 10-episode sitcom way back in the day. Ville-Veikko Salminen.
Yeah?
He produced, directed, and translated it into Finnish. And, yeah, so I was lucky getting that going. And Riku Suokas was in the show. He was cast, and I wrote a small part for myself as a South American refugee. So this way I could speak really bad Finnish, which which I had no other choice. And I could get away with the Hispanic, the Latino kind of look. Yeah. So and that's how I met Rico, and he was the only one doing shows, comedy clubs. He's the reason there's stand-up here in Finland.
Right. I didn't know the background. So it's
he's the grandfather, because he had clubs, and he just hung in there with shows, even though people had no idea back then. We didn't have YouTube, and we didn't have the exchange of programming that we have today and the internet. So a lot of people here didn't know what stand-up was really all about. Just the younger folks who did have YouTube in the beginning, they knew. So I was always blown away when somebody would mention a comedian or a radio show from the States. That, how the hell do they know that? But the internet has made everything. Anyway, so yeah, Riku was, he had venues, and Ville-Veikko Salminen, for some reason, just lied to Riku and said, "Oh, Rich has done stand-up in New York." I didn't want to lie to Riku, but I didn't want to make Ville-Veikko look like a dick. So I played it down. I said, "Oh, I did some open mics, nothing really." And Riku said, "Well, I have a show coming up in Tampere. Just do 20 minutes. And 20 minutes for
Just do 20 minutes.
Yeah, for your first show, you might as well do 3 hours. It was just... And actually, as I remember, the first 5 minutes were fantastic. I did the show. He said, 20 minutes. And I said, I don't know if I could. I went home. I wrote a bunch of stuff out. I said, okay, I got it. First 5 minutes were fantastic. And after that, just awful. Just awful. So, but then... I don't know, maybe a couple weeks, a month later or something, I did hear about a show in Helsinki at a bar called Cuckoo's Nest, right by the main railway station. It wasn't too far. And, or was it Mannerheimintie? I'm not sure. Anyway, I heard they had a show going on there, and there were acts like, I can't remember, but well-known people. And I went into the bar like a week before maybe, and I said, you know, I do stand up all of a sudden because I did one show.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said, you know, I'd like to perform. Sure. And they were going to pay. They paid me. It was Finnmarks. That's how long ago it was. And I just rewrote everything. And I had a fantastic show. A callback, which I wasn't even prepared for. And luckily, Riku heard about that. He called me and said, "Heard you had a great show." Because what he saw was just embarrassing. So yeah, and that was the start of it. But even for a long time, because it takes a lot to do stand-up. It takes, you know, to put yourself on the line like that. And I'm like, there's no stand-up culture here. Why am I going to put myself through this shit? I'll never make money at it. But he pushed and pushed because he had a booking agency at the time. And so anybody who wanted English stand-up, and there wasn't a lot back then, you know, people just weren't familiar with it. But he pushed, and then the scene just took off. Yeah. And I'm very lucky.
It's a very good timing, though.
Yeah, I'm just very lucky.
This interests me because your first show, like you said, 5 minutes, hooray, and then huge drop, and you felt awful. But how did you recover from that? You went again. And you were hungry for more. How was that?
I was kind of just excited at the fact that I had the guts to do it.
Yeah.
Because friends had, you know, growing up in New York, friends say, "Oh, you should do stand-up, you should do stand-up." They're like, oh, God, everybody and their mother is doing stand-up. You know, you'd have to claw your way up through all this shit, and then there's great ones. And just, you know, and my thing was to write screenplays. Right. My main thing was to be an actor and write comedy. Comedy's always been my first love, but I never thought about doing it in stand-up. even though I would be with friends and you'd start riffing on something and then, oh, you should do stand-up. Once during a high school play, during rehearsals, I was on stage and during a break, my guidance counselor happened to be in the auditorium, and I was just on stage making jokes as people walked by. I have no recollection what I said, but she looked up at me and said, "That's what you should do."
All right. So it was in your blood.
I don't know, but some people saw something, but I don't think she meant go to Finland and do comedy. But anyway, yeah. But comedy's always been my first love. So in whatever form, whether acting or writing. And now, doing stand-up is just...
What is the definition for comedy for you? What does it actually represent?
Just to make people laugh. Just laughter. I've always tried to analyze, what is this mechanism in us when we laugh? Why it feels so good? What makes us, do that? But there's no better feeling when you just kind of say something in the moment. Going on stage with written material and making people laugh, that's great. That feels wonderful. But when you just if there's an improv or you're with friends and you just say something and you get this genuine laugh and you yourself have no idea where that thought came from, it's a feeling I can't even describe. It's just that I guess there's endorphins or something involved, but it's just a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. Have you always been like that as a child? When you were younger, you tried to make people laugh, or it just accidentally happened? Or
I guess I did when I was younger. I was just silly kid. But when I was, I think around 14 was when I consciously said, "This is what I want to do." Yeah. But when it comes to, acting's always been there, and music on and off. I took that very seriously for a little while, and then but always coming back to comedy. But acting is something I love as well. Yeah. And I want to do more of that, and dramatic roles, whatever. That's, because I've been doing comedy so long, and it will always be my number one, but I want to, stretch out and do other things too. In performance, in the realm of performance.
Born and raised in New York. Ended up in Finland.
New York. Yeah.
New York.
Yeah.
Is it still the Big Apple, or was it back then? Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. I was just there in, I think it was February, a couple months ago. Visit my mom and my brother and friends. And I grew up in Queens. Born in Manhattan, grew up in Queens. So when I go, if I don't have to go to the city, if I don't have to go to Manhattan, I don't, because to me it's just a hassle, Yeah. But last time my girlfriend was with me, her first time in New York, so I had to do some of the touristy things, and just standing in Times Square with her, kind of seeing it through her eyes also for the first time, nighttime with all the lights, and I was blown away. It was like, it is the Big Apple. It's amazing.
Do you miss it?
Sometimes I do, yeah. But this is my home now.
Yeah. How did you end up being in Finland?
Married a Finnish lady. Divorced now 5-6 years.
All right.
And, we separated. That's where I met my now girlfriend. At that time, that's when I met her. And my kids, still here, although not for much longer. My older daughter is living in the UK.
All right.
And my younger one is just finishing up high school and looking to go to the United States to study university, even though it's free here.
Yeah. Happy father.
Anyway, that's the thing. So they won't be here much longer. But this is my home. I love this country. It's been really good to me. So,
what about at home? Have you been the stand-up comedian as a father as well, or take a rest?
Sort of. I think my younger one gets more of a kick out of me than the older one, but that's the way it is with close family and friends. It's harder to make them laugh, actually, because they know you so well. And but when you do when you do overcome that and you make someone laugh despite themselves, that's a good feeling. Yeah. Yeah, the older one is like, a lot of eye rolling, but the younger one, we have more laughs in that regard.
Part of stand-up is this roasting thing, right? If you open up your mouth in the audience, that might be a big mistake.
Oh, heckling. Yeah, you gotta... Sometimes, most of the time here, hecklers they do it in a friendly way. They think they're helping you. They're stepping on punchlines or whatever. But they're not doing it to be malicious or anything. And sometimes it's fun. You could just... that's where the improv comes from. I don't go on stage saying, okay, in the middle, I'll start improving about, no, I don't plan it, but if something happens and you have to deal with it, you do. And sometimes that is the most fun thing. And sometimes people just ruin your jokes if they start talking right when you're about to give a punchline or something. And then you have to know when and how to put them in their place without the audience turning on you. You can't be too mean unless you have to kind of match their energy in terms of that and show who's the boss.
It's different in different countries, cultures.
Yeah, and I'm always more blown away by what makes us the same. You know what? When I do a joke here, I used to do a lot of stuff in London, and I did a tour through Ireland. It always amazes me how the same things make different people laugh. So we have something in common. Humor is mostly universal. There are some cultural things that will never work, especially language things, but I don't deal with that because I perform in English all the time. But yeah, there are certain cultural things that no one else would ever get. But for the most part, we laugh at the same things. There's a lot we have in common.
You've been performing in a different type of stages, smaller spots and bigger arenas. You were actually 2007 in the Eurovision Song Contest as a warm-up.
Twice, yeah. Twice? Semi-final and the final.
Yeah. How did that make you feel?
Oh, it felt so wonderful to put it on my CV, but the actual thing was... I was on an hour before the show. I used to do the warm-up comedian for the actual people in-house. And it was an hour before. Nobody was told about it. So I was sitting in this big 9,000-seat cavern. And maybe there's 2 over there, 4 over there, 1 guy over there. I couldn't tell if it's a guy because it's so fucking far away. And I had to go through my shit. And for the second show, they would not change it because they had all the technical stuff down and they were afraid to change anything. They didn't even announce it. So twice I had to do that. So I'm standing, occasionally I would hear like a laugh from a million miles away. I don't know if they were laughing at me or just in their own conversation I don't know. But it was humiliating as fuck. And to top it off, they had the big screen there. So the people who were there got to see me on the big screen to see who this idiot performing to nobody in a 9,000-seat arena was. Yeah, it was just... like it was designed to just be humiliating for me. And then I remember after the second one, driving home, feeling really bad. And a good friend of mine, Jukka, who at that time was a doorman, and he was working a bar in Vanta. I was so depressed, I figured, I'll go drop off at his bar, maybe, see him. And I walk in. And there it is on their screen, the Eurovision, with the whole place filled. And I was like, motherfucker. Missed it by that much. 1 hour later, the place was packed. But doesn't mean it would have gone well, though, because nobody's there to see comedy, and it's so... I don't know. It might have been horrible either way. But anyway, that was my experience.
This is one reason I wanted to have you here. I'm so glad that you came, that these things, humiliation you said, this embarrassment, that a lot of people don't really recover from that. If they get this kind of experience, they don't want to do it ever again. They get afraid, but you just kept on going all the time. So what makes you do that? What is your superpower to recover from that humiliation? You're able to laugh at yourself or the situation?
Yeah, but I mean, it never feels good when you have a bad show. I don't think there's a single comedian, whatever level, that's never had a bad show. you just have to believe in you and love what you do. Believe in yourself. Believe in the jokes. I mean, I do believe in my jokes, even though sometimes it's misguided. I'm so sure, I write something, this is gonna fucking blow them away, and then there are things that I say, oh, well, I'll stick this in somewhere, see if it works, and then it's like, so you just don't know. But I've sort of always had faith. My biggest fear performing here has always been, will they get the English? Or how conservative is the audience going to be? But that's not so big a concern anymore, because these days I have enough material. If I come in planning to do like an edgier or a bluer set, and I look out and I see they're older folks, I'll just change it. Go to a more conservative set. So it's no big deal. And then I can try putting things in and feel it out. But big concern has always been the English. But it's not a big concern anymore, because the older generation now is not the same older generation as when I moved here. You know,
it has changed.
Yeah, those the folks that didn't learn English when they were young, a lot of them are gone. And the ones who I look at as old, 70s, 80s, when I moved here, they were 50s, 60s. So, and I live in a building in Lauttasaari, and there's a lot of elderly people there. Get in the elevator, they just start speaking English to me. And it still blows me away, because that was not the experience when I first moved here. Older folks, no English, forget about it. And I'd back at that time, I'd look out at the audience before, oh, they're older, shit. I'm going to have to speak really slow and hope they get something. But, yeah, that was always a big concern.
So you need to improvise a lot on the stage?
No, I don't. When I need to, I do.
Yeah.
If I'm hosting, and, I've rarely hosted shows, and sometimes things just go and it's fun. But, no, I don't go in to improvise. I like putting my ideas on paper, or, memorizing and going. And then sometimes you improvise and you build the set a little more. You think of something, while you're doing, the imagination is sparked and you just add. But generally, I think through what I'm going to say.
How much do you need to practice before you go on the stage? Because you have this setup, but you don't have a paper where you just reading the paper. It would look probably pretty stupid.
Yeah, well, you do that. Like, we have training clubs, and if I'm going to try new stuff, I'll put a paper there just in case. Yeah, because it's new stuff, and everybody knows that you're, it's a work in progress, so it's okay. But at a regular show, no, I wouldn't have a paper out. Although I have seen professionals do that. Yeah, Richard Lewis, and in some old video of his, I remember he had a piece of paper on a piano that was on stage, and I remember him going there. I don't know if you know Richard Lewis, but he's very neurotic, kind of. He does that kind of humor about really self-deprecating stuff and being neurotic. And he'd be like, and he'd go over to the piano and do this, and he's just looking, what's next? But it's rare. You don't see that much.
I know that myself, because you don't know it yet, but I'm a clown diver. So I dive from the platform to the water with the clown outfit on. And so we have the show, and we don't really know who's coming. We should know, but occasionally somebody is just missing, and then you just rewrite the whole program, and then you just try to act like a clown, and then you need to read the paper. Where's my next stunt? My next jump? Try to act like you don't do anything, but there's the paper, and probably everybody will see it.
Well, live stuff, you don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen. Things go wrong, whatever. But.
A little bit more about the preparation. Do you have certain methods or something that you get yourself in the zone before you hop on the stage?
Coffee. It depends also, how busy you are. There are some seasons, summer, there's practically nothing going on. So when you do your first show after the summer, you feel like a rank amateur again. It's like, oh, how am I going to remember all this shit? What am I, how can I do? But as the years go on, it gets easier and easier. But preparing, no, I'll go through my set, think what, I'll try to surmise what kind of a venue it is, and if I know what kind of an audience it is, I'll figure out, what material to go with, and then it's just a matter of brushing it off and going with it because I've been doing it so long.
What about if there's somebody before you? Are you checking out the crowd, how they're reacting for some type of jokes, or
not
just
really?
Concentrate on
most everybody is doing Finnish, and my Finnish is awful.
Oh yeah, of course.
So I don't have the luxury of seeing what word, but I sometimes will ask the other comedians backstage, is he doing blue stuff? Are they laughing at? But no, I'm less concerned with it these days. I do go with just a general feeling I get peeking out at them before I go on, and if I see they're holding back, if something's too rough, I can go to more conservative kind of stuff, whatever. Because some comedians are like, no, fuck them. I'm going to talk about what I want. But in my mind, they're there. They're paying money to be entertained. I'm going to try to make them laugh. Even if it means not doing something I was planning to do.
What about the situation on the stage that when they're not laughing, if that happens, how do you manage that situation? How does it feel?
Well, it doesn't happen so much anymore. And I think a lot of it is because the people know what comedy is, what stand-up is. Yeah. But in the old days, a lot of it was like, it's just somebody with a microphone talking, and they couldn't really wrap their heads around it. Sometimes the situation can be awful if people are too drunk or the place is too noisy. Shit like that happens. But having made a living at this for so long, I don't take full blame on myself. You got to look at the situation. Sometimes it could be if your timing is off, but sometimes the situation just doesn't work. But if you have like one really shitty show out of a couple of hundred, you can't really say. We do sometimes blame ourselves. We're very hard on ourselves, but I've never had a bad show where the next morning I didn't wake up feeling like some kind of a hangover. Like you wake up and like, oh fuck, that happened. It stays with you, even though, but. It's like anything else. When the shitty shows become a smaller percentage of your overall shows, you don't take it as hard, and then you just look forward to the next one, and we tend to, focus on the last one, how good that was, and then it helps you to forget.
It feels to me that you have a mindset that you're just building yourself. You were. Still are. I think you still are. But at the beginning that there was probably a shitty show. Sorry about this. But you were not satisfied. But then you kind of, I guess you learned from those mistakes.
Exactly.
Try to build yourself to a better performer.
If every show is awesome, phenomenal, you won't learn, you won't grow. So every once in a while to have a bad show, get that kick in the balls. It's, you don't want that, but it's not necessarily all negative. You get something out of it.
What about the other comedians, the other stand-up comics?
They're assholes. They're all just awful people. No, kidding.
Friends or enemies behind the scenes?
Mostly friends. Yeah, no, I can't think of a single enemy. Right from the very beginning, it was like a family. There's so many of the comics that I just love. Don't get to see them as often because there's not as many clubs and there's so many new comedians coming up. But the guys from the other one, when I get to see them, it's just, it's wonderful. Yeah, I would say most everybody. And then people will get annoyed at something. Oh, this asshole said something. And blah, blah, whatever. You hear things. But basically, it's a very loving group of guys and some girls.
What about you learn from the other performers at all? Or?
I don't have that luxury because my Finnish is not good enough, so I can't really learn from the actual content. But I guess any kind of input you're getting, even watching just the visual and seeing how relaxed they are, or seeing how hyper they are, and seeing what the audience responds to. Any kind of input is gonna, you'll learn from it. So, I guess, but I don't watch that much stand-up either. Sometimes, but when I was young, I watched somewhat, but it's not something I'm, if I'm on Netflix, I pretty much watch anything else.
Yeah. I recently saw you on stage before Rob Schneider. Thanks for the show.
Oh, that's the show you were at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a great show. Thank you.
Okay, I thought you were in Tampere because I did that and at the festival.
No, I enjoyed it a lot. Thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
But you've been also working with English-speaking comedians, like Rob Schneider was there. You actually were been touring in UK, I suppose.
Well, I would occasionally go and do shows in the UK and did one tour through Ireland. But actually because of Finland is where I got to meet a lot of people I never would have met before. And great comedians, Rich Hall. Yeah. Who else? Greg Giraldo. I don't know if you know him, but he's gone now. But I had the honor of hosting a show for him at Gloria. Todd Barry, he's a New York comedian. I don't know if he's that well known here, but he was here at Le Banc, and I opened for him. And Bill Burr. Bill Burr in the new the music hall in Helsinki on Mannerheimentie. I was the first comedian to play that because I opened for Bill Burr, so technically. Oh yeah, I'm also the first comedian to play, what's it called? Hartwall Arena.
All right.
So fuck you, Sami. First and second, 2 times. But for the 9 people that were there. But I played it. It's on the CV. They don't have to know anything.
Again, the 9 people.
Yeah, whatever it was, Jesus. They sent me the video. They recorded it for me. Also, the what's it called? The Eurovision. Yeah, they recorded it. Sent me the disc. Never watched this.
Okay.
Oh God, it'd be like wanting to watch a rerun of my colonoscopy or something. Why would I want to watch that? The most humiliating thing ever. But anyway, it's probably somewhere.
2009, you participated in the London Bridge. I have to check it now here. That'll make it.
Yeah.
Comedy Fringe Festival.
In London, yeah.
In London. Did it have any kind of impact on you?
Yeah, it's. I was very proud of that because I was the runner-up. They had, I think, 3 nights of competition. I was on the last night, which I didn't really want to do. My agent in London, she just signed me up for that. And I don't really believe in contests or anything. But she did it. I went in, and I won that evening, the heat. And they were about to announce me as winner, but one of the judges said no. And he picked this girl who did a character act. But I was this close to winning the whole thing. But I won the evening. And I was very proud of that because for me, London is, they've seen a lot of comedy. And if you can make them laugh and get their, they have a long history. And I love the British sense of humor. So if I could make them laugh, that's a nice feeling.
Good.
Yeah.
What about the shows? Has there been any, like, really special, the best show so far during your career?
That's hard to say because every once in a while you have a show and you're like, best one ever. And then, sometime after that you'll have another great show. But when you think of them side by side, of course, the most recent one has the biggest impact because you're feeling it, you're coming off that high. But there've been quite a few that when I think of great shows, there's a few out there. And one of them might be this last. I had such a great time in Tampere. Actually, some corporate gigs could be better than club gigs. I've had corporate shows that felt like a club, and you just live on that for a while, and then, it's hard to say. There are several. Hard to pinpoint just one, though. Yeah.
Is there any worst one?
Oh, yeah. Well, the Eurovision that was awful. But that wasn't my fault. There was just nobody there. I'm sure there must have been a few that might have been my fault, but one I can think of is I had a corporate show a couple years back, and the worst blackouts because I had just quit smoking.
Okay.
And I didn't know this at the time, but you quit smoking, and that could make you lose focus for maybe a week or so.
Didn't know that either.
I didn't know that. So it wasn't like I'm going to quit, and then there was some kind of psychological thing, because I had never heard that. But I had quit, did my gig. I felt like I was having a stroke. I could not remember anything. And after the show, and the people, the company was really nice about it. I did, I guess a good portion of it. But at one point, I just became so unfocused and couldn't remember anything. And I remember I got home, and I'm walking around the streets of Lauttasaari trying to remember. It was like, even at that point, there was no pressure, no audience, nothing. And it was just gone. So, yeah. And I chalk it up to having quit at the wrong time. So that was all. That was my fault. Whatever it was, whether it was that or something else. But anyway, that was my fault. But no, a lot of my bad shows were really bad situations. Either on too late. I did one at the Gastro Expo in what's it called, in Pasila.
Okay.
At Mesukeskus.
Yeah.
And they wanted me at the end of their thing. It was like 11 o'clock. And after they were done with everything else, people got up and they're standing in a big, big room, and people were just spread out talking amongst themselves. And I was standing there trying to do my shit, and just nothing. There's no way to battle that. But that's one I think about every once in a while when I think about bad ones. And I'm sure in the early days there were a lot of really bad ones.
How do you stay focused in that kind of situation?
Actually, it kind of gets you when you know you're going into a bad situation. Like if you could see what the setup is, and sometimes we go on gigs and it's like, this is so badly produced, or it's just the wrong situation. Going in, knowing it's going to suck, takes all the pressure off, and then you have fun with it. And sometimes they're wonderful shows because you can improvise. There's no pressure. You're not going to say anything that's going to ruin it because it can't get any worse. And then it gets better, So after having, like I said before, if you have a lot of decent gigs under your belt, you're not going to take those so hard. And you go easy on yourself and you say, well, it's not me necessarily because this is a really rough, shitty situation. If I could make it work, then that's really a beautiful thing. But if not, it's just not meant to be. And you just try to shake it off. That's what you got to do.
What about you as a performer? What makes you unique? What makes you stand out? Yeah, only one of you, I guess.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I do anything that special. Things are through my perspective. I mean, I'm not doing anything that no other comedian has done before. I'm up there telling jokes. Sometimes I'll go to the keyboard if I have it with me. I do less of that these days, but no, just hope that I think here in Finland it's unique because I'm the outsider talking about and showing people their culture through foreign eyes. So here, but I would love to be breaking ground or something, but I just do my jokes and I just hope people like it. I don't expect to shake up the comedy world. Just another schmuck on stage trying to make drunk people laugh. And if I could do that, I'm happy.
What are your favorite topics?
I don't know if it's about the topics. It's whatever, because I don't really sit down and write. I don't sit down and say, I got to say something about it's if a joke comes to me, if I'm having a conversation with friends and something comes to me and then I'll talk about it. It's all about funny. It's not so much getting, having a passion about a particular, which I do. I'm passionate about some subjects, but it's never made me write something. It's all about just organically coming up with a funny joke and saying, hey, that might work on stage, and then I do it.
Do you remember it, or you need to write it down right away when you...
Oh, I write everything down.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the phone, I put it in my phone. And, yeah, sometimes I'll remember, but I don't take a chance. At my age, I'm not going to take a chance, because so many times I walk into a room to get something, I have no idea what the hell I was going in there for, so if I think a joke is pretty good, I write it down. It's like gold for me.
Occasionally you bring up your keyboard. Is that a just random decision, or?
It depends. Well, I do some shows that are about music and comedy. Arimo Mustonen, he arranges shows for me, him, and Ville Sarengetto. Am I saying it right? Anyway, me and Ville and Arimo, we do these shows. Ville is an amazing bass player, and he does comedy with it. I don't know if you've ever seen him.
No.
Just amazing, the stuff he does. Very entertaining. And Arimo is funny, and he does stuff with the guitar. And then I have a keyboard, and after I do, 20 minutes, whatever, of stand-up, I'll do 5-10 minutes of comedy songs. So... yeah, but now in the PC days, some of my songs are a little edgier than they were even, a year or two ago. So yeah, I have to be really careful. But when I agree to do those shows, I have no choice, and I just do it. Whatever the audience is, they have to deal with. And some of the songs could be, one in particular is pretty dark, so the romantic date rape songs. But it's not making fun of rape. It's making fun of the stupidity of men, and it's from the point of view of a man who feels like he's misunderstood after date raping. So anyway, all right. And then turning everything into a romantic angle. Everything he did, making it romantic. Anyway, that's a harder sell these days with the PC culture. But people who are, when they go into a comedy club, you should just be ready to listen to anything.
Yeah, I think so too.
PC should stay outside. And if you don't like something a comedian says, you don't have to go see them again or whatever. But don't make a big deal over it. Just, you're there. Every joke is going to offend somebody. You can't make everybody happy. So that's the problem. It always amazes me, comedians who are so PC, and they don't realize that freedom of speech is their bread and butter, Yeah, you shouldn't talk about that on stage. Well, you shouldn't talk about that on stage, because there's always somebody, but they don't see their own, what they're talking about seems like the right thing. But nowadays, making fun of white men, that's the only group you're allowed to attack, and everything else, it's racist on its own, so because white privileged men, but you could say anything about them, but anything else, no, that's bullshit.
Can you explain to listeners that PC thing? They actually told me that it's destroying comedy. Tell me about that.
Political correctness. It's we're living in an age where everybody is so offended by everything, and it's like they're professionally offended. They want to... people are using their being offended as a means of getting ahead further. Everybody's, this whole victimhood culture. If I'm a victim, then, well, fuck off. It's all about the freedom of speech. If you don't like something somebody's saying, don't listen. As long as nobody's inciting violence, take a joke. And everything... yeah, there are some things I won't joke about, but I'm not going to stop other people from joking about it, And, it's just comedy. And sometimes the fact that we make jokes about it, that's the funny part, is that we're actually saying these horrible things, and it makes us... it's holding up a mirror. It's not like you really believe these horrible things, but it's like a mirror of something that all of us think once in a while, despite ourselves. And that's what's fucking funny about it. don't, but if you're not allowed to offend this group, then you can't offend any group. So you have to be able to say pretty much anything, as long as you're not really talking, trying to incite violence. And this whole thing where they talk about hate speech, that's such a wide thing. What is hate speech? If I make a joke, two Jews go into a bar, blah, blah. So is that hate speech or is it a joke? It's like, so we have to, freedom of speech is like a paramount thing in any free society. You have to have free, be able to express yourself, and especially in a comedy club.
Has this changed during the years?
It's changing. It's getting harder and harder. I mean, more crowds.
It's crazy.
Yeah. People love to be offended or to have something to complain about, And when you walk into a comedy club, all bets are off, just as long as nobody's inciting violence. Feelings don't matter. If somebody hurts your feelings, you're not really hurt. Just strap on a pair and deal with it, because you're not going to make everybody love you. There's always going to be intolerance and something to... What are we, 7 billion? Everybody's got different thoughts and everything. You can't please everybody. If you go on stage trying to be totally politically correct and not offend anybody, good luck.
What's the joke?
Yeah, that's an act I don't want to see.
What about if you see on stage that it kind of hits somebody, that somebody on the stage gets a little bit grumpy and like, I don't understand that. Does it actually make you feel good?
Well, if somebody, what do you mean?
If you make a joke and somebody don't really get it and is offended, how does it make you feel up in the stage? Does it make you feel good or bad, or does it affect you at all?
I guess it's annoying. If they don't understand it, they just get offended just for the sake of getting offended. I don't care as much as I used to. I think it's just annoying. And people who just love to be offended, I just don't understand the whole thing. That all they are is making themselves look like they're weak, and they have to be coddled. And I have no respect for somebody who's that easily offended.
Why do you think it's that way nowadays? What has really changed?
I don't know, but I remember the phrase politically correct as far back as probably the late 80s, early 90s. I think I remember hearing that phrase. And I never thought it would go this far, but I guess a lot of the millennials, they've been coddled so much, given awards for just showing up and parents telling them everything they do is wonderful. And then they get into the real world and they can't handle the adversity. People thinking differently, people presenting different ideas. And instead of talking about it, especially in universities, this is going on. Universities are so close-minded now. They'll only listen to totally left-wing things. And I don't go with any ideology, left or right. It's like I pick each topic on its own. Some of my views are very left, some are very right. But some people just go down the party line. And something about maybe the way the millennials have been brought up, and can't deal with any criticism or anything, and easily triggered. And it's... just the pussy generation.
Yeah, it makes the life hard. In
my
opinion, people should lose the belt a bit.
It just no respect for somebody who's so weak they can't deal with hearing another opinion or a joke, and that really upsets them. What is wrong? Why are you not strong enough to just deal with it?
I laugh about it because laughter is the best cure, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And that's why people should go to see your show and stand-up comic more often. Because there you can, I don't know, if you feel bad after work or whatever, it just disappears there. That's my opinion.
Absolutely. And remember the guy on stage, you know, he probably the thing that's offending you is not something he really believes, or he's presenting it to show the irony of how stupid the idea is. But even if he does say something that you don't agree with, so what? How does that hurt you? Just, you know, say, okay, I don't agree with that, and then laugh at the next thing, you know. But to take it so hard, I mean, why the hell, if I express an opinion on stage that offends somebody, who the fuck am I? Don't worry about it. It's just, and sometimes I really don't believe what I'm saying. You know, it's like I'll make a joke, but it's to show a different viewpoint and how stupid people could be, you know. But if I offend you, you know, don't worry about it. Something you like probably offended someone else, but you liked it. So just deal with it and move on.
You're a comedian. Have you actually seen that when you made people laugh, they changed their mindset, they actually changed their life after being able to laugh about the small things and about the jokes?
I wouldn't know. I do my thing, they go their way, I go mine, and I don't know if...
I believe it will affect people.
Oh, it's a nice thought, you know, if it affects people positively. But, yeah, I always think of it as it's entertainment. And when I watch a movie, for the most part, it's 2 hours, and most movies I don't think about afterwards. And I guess a lot of people that do that with stand-up, unless, you know, but it's nice to think that maybe something resonated. I have met people years after they've seen me, and they'll quote one of my jokes or something to me, and it's like been so long ago that I'm like, you saw it. Yeah. But so it's nice when that happens and something stays with people and all that. But for the most part, I think a lot of people, they're half drunk, had a show anyway, and they'll laugh, and then they go on to the next thing, and then they want to get laid and go on with their life. So
that's not the real reason you're doing it, to make
I do because I love it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you know, I've thought from time to time it would be nice to sit down and write just a full show with social commentary about how I feel, but no, I just want to go on stage, make people laugh. If I could stick in new jokes from time to time, and you know, that's where the real pleasure comes, when something new works and all that. But yeah, no, if I could just entertain people, I think that's all most people are looking for. Maybe some of them would love to walk out and say, hey, that really made me think. And maybe someday I'll get to that point where I will do that. But right now it's just about entertainment. Yeah. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Allergy season.
Yeah. So comedy is your passion, I suppose.
Oh, since the age of 14, that's where I thought I want to make people laugh.
What do you think? Should people follow their passion more often?
Absolutely. I mean, you should be prepared if things don't work out, but why not try to follow the thing you love? If you have a passion about it, that's might be the universe's way of telling you to do it. I mean, so I guess you could have a passion for something and suck at it too, but find out. But you know, it's you get one shot at life, and if you can do what you enjoy doing, it's a gift. So why not check it out?
What do you believe in more? Is talent or hard work?
I guess both. Mostly talent, though. I mean, if you don't have talent, hard work will never... It might hone something. It might help. Maybe there are some people that have benefited just from the work. I do remember one of my piano teachers when I was young saying that his best students were the less talented ones because they worked harder.
Yeah.
So there's that. But if you don't, with comedy, if you don't have the talent to create something funny, I don't know how hard work will I don't know how that would work, you know. If you don't have the talent to paint something, you could work and work, maybe get a little better at it, but I think talent, the raw talent has to be there.
Yeah. You told me that you've been a writer before you started stand-up. You think it helped you out?
Oh, yeah. Well, particularly a comedy, writing comedy.
Yeah.
Of course, stand-up is so different than writing, say, a sitcom or a movie. But But having grown up watching stand-up, and I guess some of the same comical mechanisms are there and all that. And I was able to transfer my writing from just script to, monologue style.
What about as a writer? You ever get a writer's block?
I've always feared it, as all writers, I think, do, to start something new. But once I've actually structured myself to sit down a couple of hours a day and do what I'm saying, it seems to come. I mean, I can't remember if I've ever... The important thing is to structure yourself and just put stuff on paper. I've dealt with a lot of fear of writer's block. I wouldn't write for a while just because of the fear of it. But once I finally forced myself to actually do it, so the fear of writer's block is the cause, I think, of writer's block, at least for me, mostly.
How do you force yourself? If you have that fear inside, you have fear of that.
Well, I was taught years ago that you just structure yourself, and I was told just sit down 15 minutes a day and write something. Doesn't matter if it's good, bad, whatever. Just write. And then you start working and, build it up to an hour a day or whatever. As long as you're structured and you feel you have to sit there, and if you write, not everything is going to be terrible. You'll find something to work with, and then you work from there. But it's all about just doing it, facing the fear, and not giving into it. Say, okay, if nothing comes today, whatever, tomorrow. And that's all you do. You just face it. There's no other way. You don't know if anything's going to happen until you make it happen or not.
Do you use the same mindset when performing on the stage or acting, playing a role?
Doing stand-up, no, that you just have to do. I mean, if you have no choice, and then you realize, okay, this is going to happen. I can't get out of this now. And you just commit yourself to it. And you go out and you try to have as much fun as you can. And do your thing, yeah. At that point, there's no getting out of it. Unless you fake a heart attack or something. Or pull a fire alarm. I
haven't done that.
Not yet, no.
What would be your message to people that are too afraid of doing their passionate things that they would really love to do, but they are just too afraid?
I mean, what else can you say? I don't know how to affect people other than just like, what have you got to lose? Exactly. Of course, the fear of failing, that's what stops people. They're afraid of failing. So by not doing anything, they fail. So your only shot is to actually just go for it, do it. And I know how scary it is to do something. And I know how other people see stand-up, for example. I have a friend who tried skydiving. And I told him, there is no way anyone could ever get me to leave a perfectly functioning plane willingly. Too scared, never do. And my friend said to me, but you do stand-up. I was like, well, yeah, but if I die on stage, I don't really die. If I die parachuting, I'm going to fucking die. But it blew my mind to think how people see public speaking as such a scary thing that they'd rather jump out of an airplane than talk in front of an audience. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah, and if your thing is, to go on stage and try comedy, just remember, you try it. If it doesn't work, these people, they're not going to be thinking about it. Not nearly as long as you're going to be thinking about it. They'll go on with their lives. It was just, 15, 20 minutes of that they would have rather been doing something else, but they're not going to dwell on it like you are. So just go for it. And if it doesn't work out, or it might impassion you to try even harder, and you realize it's not going to really physically affect you or even emotionally affect you for very long. So just do it. And,
not much to lose
But
anyway.
yeah, you could say these things, but if somebody's got a fear that's like a true fear, I don't know. Maybe therapy is the only way to get through that kind of thing. But yeah, if you're passionate about anything, what do you got to lose by going for it?
Yeah. Talk about laughs. It's been awesome that you're here. It's been a blast to hear these things because I didn't know, to be honest, anything about stand-up comics. I've been working in the theater. I've seen comedians there acting on a stage, but this is something new. I never spoke to stand-up comic before, so I'm very honored that you
my pleasure.
shared your time to come over.
My pleasure. I'm honored that anybody gives a shit. So
I do give a shit because I think laughing is a big part of life. I think we need to enjoy life.
We work, we work, we struggle, we worry about our kids, we worry about this. If you could laugh if you don't laugh, if you can't have a good time once in a while at least, what is it all about? What's the point?
How important do you think it is to be able to laugh at yourself?
Oh, very important. Yeah, if you can just laugh at other people, but you're too much, you put yourself on a pedestal, and you can't. That's just bullshit. And the wonderful thing about the Finnish people is they do laugh at themselves. Yeah, thank God for me. I've been able to survive in this country because people have a really good sense of humor, particularly about themselves. It's wonderful, and yeah. Why is everything else subject to ridicule, but not you? No, that's bullshit.
Yeah, I've seen these people. It's strange. It feels strange. Yeah.
I know, and for the most part, Finns have it though. That good self-deprecating humor, and I respect that immensely. People who can laugh at themselves. Yeah.
One last question, because this is Surfer of Life is as well having fun.
Of course.
What makes you laugh?
That's tricky because sometimes I could watch something that I'll watch a comedy movie, for example, and I'm like, this is great, and I'm fully enjoying it. Clever, great. Some things just don't make me laugh, though, and I appreciate what I'm watching. But the laugh mechanism just doesn't. I think it's mostly silliness. Clever is clever, but something that's silly with a broken logic, still, I guess it has to be clever in a way, or just so dumb. It's mostly the silly, I think, that gets me to laugh. Yeah, it's there's no knowing, really. But, like when I was a kid, I don't know if you're familiar with Steve Martin.
Yeah,
his stand-up from the 70s. Yeah. And I was a kid, and I think the first place I saw Steve Martin was on Saturday Night Live. And I probably was 14 or something like that. And Saturday Night Live would start at 11:30 in the night. So I was in my room, and this guy came on TV. My parents are sleeping in the next room. And the silliness of what he did, it was really anti-comedy in a way. It was just like some things were so obvious that it was clever to go the obvious, because you think, you wouldn't expect that. It's so stupid and obvious, but still brilliant, goofy, and funny at the same time. And tears rolling down trying not to wake my parents up with laughter. But yeah, back then, that's what really made me giggle. And I get ridiculed for it, but I don't do it on stage much, but like toilet humor. Somehow I see it on a show or in a movie. So a toilet joke just cracks me up. I'm like a child when it comes to that. I don't know why. But the sillier and the stupider it is, the more I laugh. But I have such a great appreciation of clever, too. If you can get silly and clever together, that's pure gold. But
what about as a comedian? Are you analyzing it a lot, what the people are doing, actually?
What other comedians?
The comedians, yes, exactly.
Yeah, if I understand, like when I watch stand-up in English, I'll analyze, I guess, a little bit. You can't help but do that. But for the most part, I'm just in awe when I see really good stand-up and like, oh, I should have thought of that, or I had an idea like that, but I didn't follow through, and this guy's brilliant. He found the way to do it. Other than that, I'll just sit and just enjoy it.
Still able to laugh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. If it's good, it's good.
It's so great to hear about these things because, like I already said, I have no ideas. It's very interesting. It's fascinating because you really are in in a hot spot there. When people are watching and you should just...
Yeah, but I'm doing it.
Yeah, it feels like for me, who is not the one on the stage, it kind of feels like this unbearable situation that nobody's laughing. You get sweaty, but it's just
could be that way.
Idea because I don't do it. So.
I mean, back in the day, I do remember some shows, especially in the early days, just dead, and the flop sweat is coming down and burning my eyes, but. It's not like that anymore because people understand comedy more. So even if sometimes you're in a situation where the sound is so bad, the back doesn't hear you, and you know that. So people in front, if they're listening to you, that's it. I had one like that recently, private party, and the sound was just so awful that the people... And so they started talking, but I don't take it personally because if they can't hear me, why shouldn't they talk to each other? But as long as I had a nice core group around me, you accept it for... you take it in the context of what it is. You say, well, for what it was, that was good.
Yeah. So, yeah. What about when it's a bigger crowd compared to a smaller audience? Like when you're really close to the people, maybe on the same ground level, compared to that you're... higher up on stage. Which one is more difficult?
I like intimate shows. So whatever creates the most intimacy. I like having the people really close by. I don't care if I'm level or a little higher. I don't like a stage that's too high. Then it creates kind of a distance or something. Yeah. And nobody's having fun looking at you like that. But I like intimate shows. Yeah. I've had some nice bigger ones. I love Apollo. I wouldn't call that intimate. Apollo's great. Postula on the big stage side is fun too. But sometimes when you just have a small group around you, there's something about it and you can get away with more. You could tell darker jokes and all that somehow because it's intimate. Yeah.
It's more human maybe. A group of buddies around.
Yeah. Something about it that really works for me. But of course, when I have a big stage and that works, that's a wonderful feeling too. So, yeah.
Oh. Thank you so much for coming. Hey, Rich.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me.